Greetings and salutations, internet netizens. It is I, Wolfphototech, and sometimes I really pitch my voice really weirdly and do stuff like that. I actually have quite a range in genre voices I can do. But anyways, this is the Paranoia Red Clearance Edition Starter Set. This is from Mongoose Publishing. I do believe this is about, say 5 years old. I think Mongoose Publishing is currently eyeballing creating a new edition right now. They refer to it as the Perfect Edition. So, Paranoia is actually a semi-old TTRPG. It was started by if I remember correctly, West End Games back in 1984. This is actually, I really need to hold this up for 5 seconds. I'm going to take this Pathfinder box and stick Paranoia up here. This is something really important to know about Paranoia. Paranoia is not your typical TTRPG or tabletop role-playing game. And what I mean by that is that most tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, RuneQuest, Call of Cthulhu, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, The Dark Eye, the Mutant Epoch, etc., 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 tend to be cooperative adventure games with a story mechanic that either is somewhat pre-planned or organically evolves as you go along. I personally find, from personal experience, from the many years I've been playing and running, that plans and stories that were pre-designed by game masters tend to have the feeling of being linear, almost sliding towards railroad, where stories that tend to organically evolve as you play, like your characters start in and the dungeon master might have a story for the first bad guy for levels 1 to 5 or something like that, and then they just kind of evolve the story from there based on the character's interests and the choices they made in the world. That tends to be a superior game overall, because the feeling of being railroaded tends to be assuaded from occurring or prevented from occurring. But that's off into another territory of conversation I have to make another video about. In the case of Paranoia, it is not specifically just a cooperative game that has a story that either is pre-built or in various modules or evolves naturally through interactions with the world, but it is a cooperative. It's a cooperative PvP game, which is really interesting. This is really strange territory. Basically, in Paranoia, all the players kind of play towards a thing in the game, whatever the scenario or mission. The term for it is a mission is, but the players are encouraged to kind of mess with each other throughout the whole entire game. The great thing about this, if you happen to have a group that is emotionally and mentally mature that can deal with PvP, Paranoia is an excellent game for that, because it has a whole range of rules and mechanics that encourage it, but encourage it in a fun, goofy gonzo way. This is basically the basic setup to Paranoia is that at one point in time in the setting of Paranoia, a long time ago, something bad happened that resulted in all of humanity moving into complexes where people all live. And the complex in Paranoia is called Alpha Complex, which Alpha is the first letter, so it's the first one. People have been in Alpha Complex for far longer than Alpha Complex has been designed to exist. And things are starting to get weird with the system, or have been getting weird with the system for ages. This is what happens when you live on Main Street in a nice little apartment right above a business. And in Wisconsin, you get Harley Davidson noises all the time. But anyways, Paranoia has your characters, troubleshooters, try to figure out how to deal with the things that are not supposed to be happening in Alpha Complex. The little troubles of society. You know, like that one floor that keeps flooding every 36 hours, or the doors that don't open every other day, or the people that are disappearing into that strange end of the building, a strange end of the complex, where rumors of things are happening. But anyways, your job as a player in Paranoia is to be the person who gets promoted up the rank in the color rank system of Paranoia. If it includes, your buddy not surviving and you getting all the credit for it, that's good. Everything in the eyes of Friend Computer is awesome. Well, except for questioning Friend Computer and Alpha Complex and saying that the concerns of Friend Computer is wrong in any way or form. As Seth Sarkowski put it in Paranoia, the best way to imagine Friend Computer is to imagine it as clippy or autocorrect. It's a feature the computer is designed to help you, but it does so very poorly. But you cannot point out that it is doing very poorly, because that is treason. And you go into the biomass shredder, or what's referred to in Futurama as a suicide booth. In the beginning of Paranoia, everyone starts with 6 clones. This is a fairly nice box overall by Mongoose Publishing. Comparison to most TTRPG boxes, it's actually a fairly small box overall, and roughly about the same thickness as most TTRPG starter or beginner boxes. In the case of the Pathfinder boxes, tend to be a little on the thicker side. Chaosium beginner boxes tend to be on the thinner side but taller, and so forth. Inside the Paranoia box for the Red Clearance Edition is all white. It is actually rather nice. You have two decks of cards with different categories of cards in each deck. As you can see, that serve different purposes. And as you guys play, there's various moments when you will, say, draw a card and have an effect that occurs in the game. This is a really interesting detail about Paranoia. The game master does not roll any dice. The players roll all the dice. Paranoia is fundamentally, as you can see from when I held up the box, is a D6 system. You usually use a standard set of 4 regular 4 regular D6 dice, and then see that red dice? That is the computer die, or the as people refer to it as the dreaded computer die, which, by the way, is treason. Anything about the computer is not dreaded. It is your friend. It is there to help you. So do not question Friend Computer. Because Friend Computer is your friend. It's there for your protection and help. But anyways, you got these sets of cards loaded with a lot of humorous lines. There's many different types of cards. It's not terribly complex. In the box, besides the cards and the dice, you have 4 of these dry erase boards that function as your character sheets. It's single-sided. There's nothing really on the backside. If you want, you can doodle a happy face on the backside and say, "The friend computer is my friend." Little notations and so forth. Character creation is rather simple. This is very important to note. Paranoia is one of the few is in that group of TTRPGs where no one can really make a character outside of the session. You had to have a session 0. So all your players have to show up to a place in person or online and take your character sheets, and the game master will walk you through the character creation process of picking out your skills and your bonuses and penalties. And in Paranoia, as Seth Sorkowski has a delightful video on it. Incidentally, I will include a link to Seth Sorkowski's his review of Paranoia. By the way, I do heavily suggest you watch that video. It is quite humorous, and it's way better than mine in a lot of respects. Yeah. It's hard to compete with Seth Sorkowski. He's amazing. The only way I can compete with Seth Sorkowski is the fact that I deal with more modern Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder and class systems, and I will roam more freely in my purchases and showing off of stuff. Just so you know, I have not played or ran Paranoia. I have read through the various rules of the books, and I also have watched people play it, and I've also read and watched a lot of reviews of it. And as I can say, so far what we got here is we got this nice. This is a really nice feature for a TTRPG, is have decks. And in the case, there's also some more decks online you can also buy. You can go to DriveThruRPG and get digital versions of the decks, and you can print those out. Or you can go to various websites like Amazon.com and buy some more decks. But anyways, you got your 6 clipboards, which is more than enough for a game of Paranoia. You have the player handbook. There's, by the way, 3 handbooks in the box. It's just a standard regular box on the inside. There's a player handbook. There is the Game Master handbook. And then there is the mission book, which is a collection of missions to play in Paranoia. Generally, the basic consensus of Paranoia is that it is a game that strongly favors one-shots or mini adventures. A bit of adjustment and comfort has to be gained with the system, and a level of crazy bonkersness for your players' tolerance needs to be applied. But there it is noted that it is possible to play longer campaigns of Paranoia, as long as the game master can string together a series of wacky hijink adventures your characters can get into. This is the player's handbook, as I said before. It is a beautiful, beautiful book. There's a lot of humorous pieces of artwork. It says, "Welcome, Troubleshooter." This is in 4K, so you could probably read everything if I'm slow enough and careful enough. Which in case I'm not going to do. I'm just going to go to various places. This is a fairly accurate representation of situations that you might run into with your characters. Yet again, you don't really want to go too deep in that. You see the direction they are going with Paranoia. Paranoia is generally in that genre of utopia dystopia future, where The future was designed to be a utopia, but everything wasn't entirely designed to last as long as it was designed to last. People are using it, and everything is starting to fall apart. As I said before, little charts on other ways of making characters, because there is more than one way. Optimizing, redefining details, and so forth. Incidentally, as you are playing Paranoia, every so often your clone will either do something very bad, which then friend computer retires your character, or something that's not supposed to happen because your character did something, and your character is retired in the field. At that point, your cerebral cortex, the little computer in your head that copies important information from your mind and translates information into your mind from friend computer, which is the main computer in the complex, will transfer your mind to a new body. There you go. As such as here, you got a clone number. You got a total of 6 clones by default. Your game master can modify that if they feel free to do so. There is also loyalty ratings and mutations and stuff like mutant powers and secret societies and such and so forth. There's decks for another set of decks that you can buy that are specifically for secret societies and for more mutant powers and stuff like that. What are you doing back there? What are you doing? Get on the bed. Go lay down. My pupper is roaming. So that's my sign out once I get this video done. And I have to go and take the pupper for some reason. Isn't that right? Huh? But anyways, combining stats and skills. See, if you if you make the wrong choice, you might have consequences. But anyways, it is important to note that there is a lot of possibilities with this game. Some of them may be rumored to exist. Some of them might not rumored to exist according to your characters. But generally, this game is generally meant to be played gonzo, humorous, with a slight nod of cheek and chuckle in the direction of conspiracy theories and various other things. So, there is a whole variety of fun stuff. Like, I do believe that's not a clean spot or a print on his tummy. That is actually a hole in him. But anyways, the book, as you can see, it has people being sucked into a giant fan. You know, that is the vibe of Paranoia. It's just gonzo. Yet again, a reference to the fact that everyone is clones that are grown in bats, and so forth. More Paranoia humor, and so forth. Yeah. So in the player's handbook, yes, look at the bottom of that. That's all Z's. You gotta get your word count up, dear friends. And there's a lot of really fun tables and charts in the back. some of which are rather humorous because there is information that has been lost to time because the alpha complex is so incredibly old that various parts of the data banks have become incredibly corrupted, or things are labeled that are classified as redacted or require much higher clearance than your characters currently have. Generally, most characters start with red clearance and move up. There's only one clearance lower than red, which is infrared. The Game Master book is a rather chunky book in itself. Gets you the vibe of understanding what's going on here. That's like the last page. That's page 128. There's more pages in this book than there are in any one of the 3 books for Spelljammer, for Dungeons and Dragons. So if we're getting like the whole point of how this game is supposed to be, it is a wacky gonzo, everyone dies and gets cloned back into existence at various points in times, just because. And eventually the problem gets solved. The trouble gets troubleshooted. Yes. Gatherings of citizens of less than 4 is strictly prohibited. That's a rather interesting twist is on group loitering or gang activity laws. And that gets the general vibe of Paranoia. There is... This book right here covers. Let me. I'm stop paging through it. It covers the intro. It has an introduction. That's very good to have. Alpha Complex, Game Mastering Paranoia, the computer, inhabitants of Alpha Complex, secret societies and secret societies, cerebral cortex and data feeds, device, equipment, XP points, number 1 troubleshooter, running combat, working with NPCs, GM advice, creating adventures quickly, debriefing, group, service groups, and useful lists and charts. So, remember, recycle your clones. Alrighty? So if you haven't gotten the whole general vibe of how this game is supposed to be just utopia collapsing into a mess humorously, go ahead and go over to Seth Sarkowski's video and check that out. There's still one more book left. This book is... There's the back. Have a nice day or else. There is a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 missions in this book. There's also several pre-made characters. Appendix, whitewash, pre-generated characters. So there's 2 appendixes. An introduction. So there you go. I'm not going to page through and pull out stuff from the mission book because I don't want to give anything away just in case players are watching this video. And generally the same thing applies for Seth Sarkowski's video. He tries to he divides his videos into 2 sections: the general section in the front for both players and game masters, and the back section specifically for game masters. But there you go. My personal opinion of Paranoia is it looks to be an exceedingly interesting game. I obviously understand and know right off the bat from basically reading, watching as much as I do, and going through all my little bit of research that this game is definitely a game that requires a level of maturity between players, that they are not going to become upset or hostile to fellow players for shenanigans or any PvP situations. You'll have some players that can be perfectly mature as players in a general game, and then they get into a PvP situation or they get into a competition with other players and they get butthurt really easily. This is a game that's I advise against playing with those players. However, if you have players that are perfectly fine playing PvP or goofy shenanigans and stuff like that, and goofy shenanigans, the PvP is very important because the feel of Paranoia, the cards, and the whole thing is built on the fact that all your characters are trying to climb a hierarchy of clearance for getting better and better perks within Alpha Complex. And the most efficient way of doing that is getting all the credit in the game when Friend Computer does reviews on your progress on completing the troubles of Alpha Complex and such and so forth. And sometimes some people just can't take not winning, and they particularly get a little rough with their friends and if they don't win. So this game is probably not for those players, but if you have players that are great with that, I would definitely go and include this into your rotation. As from what I've done in studies on this, it's actually a really good... It's one of those games like Call of Cthulhu that is really great for whipping together and throwing into a one-shot and having it sitting on the side. So if your players are playing like Dungeons & Dragons, RuneQuest, Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, Travel or something, and you just happen to have one of those days where you have like, oh no, 2 people don't show up to our adventure, you can whip out Paranoia, and boom, you have a game, and you can have some wacky hijinks. And once the players have played Paranoia probably a few times, they probably pretty much get used to it. The important thing I have to remind you yet again, Paranoia is also in that weird category of TTRPGs, much like Numenera, where the game master does not roll dice. They just simply create situations in the environment in the world, and they reshuffle the deck every so often, and they play the part of the friend computer. And there's a lot of mechanics within the game master guide that replace the nature of the dice that the game master is running with, that would normally run with in other TTRPGs. However, Paranoia is its own little quirky thing, and the game, the dice mechanic is actually quite simple. It's a D6 system, as I stated before, and the red die is, as I said before, is the computer intrusion die. It's basically when you roll on it, you get a level. When the players roll on it, with it, they roll the D6 dice with the red computer die, and they end up with a result with the red die, and boom, something happens. Friend computer can be doing all kinds of things, like if it's a stressful situation, like you're fighting mutants, your friend computer could like register, oh no, my friend, the person that is in this area is stressed out. I'm going to release a compound into their system or stimulate a part of their brain that calms them down. Maybe make them sleepy. That way they can relax very nicely. Or they could start playing, a friend computer can start playing loud music for really calming loud music in the area. And that could negatively affect people's capacity to pick up or see or pick up various things in the environment by sound. because they are stressed, and friend computer registers their stress level and says, I'm going to put on some really nice music for my troubleshooters today. And your troubleshooters are trying to listen to a grinding sound in the system, in the mechanicals, and all of a sudden this music starts playing that's really loud, that's really calming, and or rain music or something else, and it complicates the whole situation because friend computer cares about you and friend computer wants you to be happy. Just don't question friend computer, because friend computer is concerned that the bad people are going to do bad things, and if you start questioning friend computer might think you are bad people and might send a group of troubleshooters to fix the problem. So that is basically Paranoia in a shot. Generally, this is like a 4-star box. It has dice. The books are really high quality, as you could see in the video. You have really nice little clipboards, without the clip, obviously, but they're really nice dry erase reusable clipboards that you can write out pre-made characters on and hand out to players so they can quickly play characters, or the characters can rewrite them out themselves. Keep in mind that this game is meant to be played, or character creation is meant to be done in group. This is not like Dungeons and Dragons where all the players could just go home. They could make a character, show up with a backstory, and then say, here's my backstory, here's my character, let's go right into this. Paranoia, you absolutely want to come with a blank sheet, maybe inclination to what the possibilities are with it, and then as you go, the game master will walk you through the process, the round table process of creating your character, saying like, player 1, what skill do you want that is a +1? The player says, oh, I would like shooting at +1. Okay, player 2, you have a -1 in shooting in your with your gun skill. Player 2, what skill do you want a +1 in? Oh, I want a +1 in my a social skill, persuasion or something like that, or something along that line. And then, player 3, you have a -1, and so forth. And it just keeps rotating around until you fill out all your stats from like 1 to with a plus or -5 range, and you go from there. So there you go. That is generally Paranoia. The box is like a 4-star quality. I do not know what the perfect edition is going to be like. This is the old edition. This is about 5 years old. There is a nice little selection of goodies for this edition online. Typically everything for this game is actually quite cheap, with the exception of, say, this box, which is MSRP'd for $50. But considering that the quality of all the contents of the box is quite nice, I say that $50 is great. And it's also one of those great games from all my research is based on. It's a great game for one-shots, mini adventures. You know, like if you want to like play 3 to 6 games or a mini campaign or adventure with it. That's perfectly good. A little bit of skill and improvisation ability has to be developed for the game master to run it into campaigns. However, many people who are exceedingly experienced in a variety of TTRPGs, like Seth Sarkowski and many others, have found that they are actually quite capable of playing it into campaigns. It's quite possible because there is a level up mechanic in your clearance levels that goes all the way from infrared all the way up to ultraviolet, and there's roughly, off the top of my head, I have to say there's like 10 levels or something like that. So you do have a means of gaining your character's perks for playing the game very well. and you can have fun expanding it out from there. So thank you very much for watching this delightful video. I hope you have a wonderful week and magnificent month, and see you next time. And I wish I could just open my hand and it would turn off the video, but I had to go and hit the button. See you next time.